From the Cronkite studios in downtown Phoenix, this is Cronkite News.
Today, Governor Ducey signed a landmark bill to tackle opioid abuse in Arizona.
Plus, Valley veterans get assistance with basic necessities at the Maricopa County Standdown.
And new details on a $160 million plan that would build a new venue for Sun Devil athletes.
Cronkite News starts now.
Good evening and welcome into Cronkite News on Arizona PBS. I'm Chaz Frazier.
And I'm Alexis Burdine. Thank you for joining us. Governor Ducey signed a bill today to crack down on opioid abuse. This signing comes after a unanimous decision to pass the bill through the Arizona House and Senate last night. Cronkite News reporter Gabriel Gamino was there for the signing.
And aggressive pieces of public policy we've seen in years.
Exactly 5 days after calling for a special session, surrounded with Republican and Democratic leadership, Governor Ducey signed the Arizona Opioid Epidemic Act into law.
I want to thank all of our legislature. This was a unanimous vote for putting party labels and politics aside and getting this done.
This law is going to do is to give public health, our healthcare professionals, and law enforcement tools to better combat the crisis.
Dr. Kara Chris, director of the Arizona Department of Health Services, says the law provides protections for patients and for people reporting overdoses, as well as help for those who are addicted.
It's going to allow people to be saved by allowing loved ones and friends to call using the Good Samaritan law. It's going to expand access to naloxone. It's going to help get people access to the treatment with $10 million and requirements for insurance companies to approve other treatments and alternatives so that people don't have to depend on opioids.
At the Capitol, Gabriel Gamino, Cronkite News.
There are some exceptions to the new law. Dosage limits would not apply to cancer, trauma, and burn patients, those in hospice care, and substance abuse patients. Also, doctors can extend existing prescriptions for patients dealing with chronic pain.
The White House has unveiled a new plan to provide a path to citizenship for 1.8 million undocumented immigrants in exchange for $25 billion toward border security. White House officials are framing this plan as a Senate compromise. However, many conservatives are calling this proposal amnesty, while other Democrats are accusing Trump of holding dreamers hostage. Trump's new plan would scale back family-based migration and eliminate the visa lottery program. Meanwhile, Trump is blaming Senate Democratic leader Chuck Schumer for complicating negotiations over the fate of hundreds of thousands of young immigrants brought to the country illegally as children.
Homeless and at-risk veterans from across the valley gathered at the Maricopa County Standdown, an annual event focused on providing veterans with the resources to keep them healthy and off the streets. Cronkite News reporter Madison Stark takes us through the event.
A lot of times vets in need don't get connected to the services that they desperately need. Asking for help and receiving help is something that they might not know how to navigate the system. So we provide everyone here a one-stop shop of all the necessary resources and services, again, to retain to regain their independence.
Over 70 service providers and 1,500 community volunteers aided veterans with services like health care, housing, veterinary care for their pets, and for the first time, full-service dental care for free. Veteran Gregory C. Jordan came to the Standdown looking for help with housing and left with much more.
A gentleman just helped me out. He gave me $50 to help with my utility bill. That was a godsend. So there are still some good people in the world.
Volunteer Todd Davis is a veteran himself and says being a part of the Maricopa Standdown is the least he can do to help.
These veterans do so much for our country, whether they're still serving or not serving. They've given their lives for us, and it's just tremendous to give something back to them when they're in need.
The Maricopa County Standdown expects to welcome over 2,000 veterans to the two-day event. In Phoenix, Madison Stark, Cronkite News.
39 states reported high flu activity this week. That's 7 more than the week before. However, the State Department of Health Services says the number of new flu cases actually dipped here in Arizona. The new report from the ADHS shows that 1,200 laboratory-confirmed cases last week. This is down from nearly 4,000 diagnosed cases 3 weeks ago.
A smartphone app being tested at Phoenix Sky Harbor Airport will send alerts to travelers, letting them know wait times at security checkpoints. The Tripit app uses a radar to check the line length and lets flyers know wait times about 3 hours before their flight. The app will also give real-time updates, show the nearest security checkpoint, and let travelers see which line is the shortest. The app will combine wait time data and airport traffic information to let users know when they should get on the road. If you don't have any travel plans this weekend, it looks like we'll have some great temperatures here in the Valley.
Imani Stevens has our weekend forecast.
Happy Friday, everyone. The weather is absolutely gorgeous. Right now, we're at a high of 69, mostly sunny, and not much changes for tonight. But tomorrow, it's going to be really sunny and perfect for a picnic with a high of 73. Here's a quick look around the valley for tomorrow's highs. 47 in Grand Canyon, you can expect a high of 47, and down south in Tucson, a high of 72, which goes into our 7-day forecast. You can have a high, we're hitting the low 80s next week, already in January, which is such a surprise. I'm Imani Stevens, Cronkite News Weather.
The Arizona Board of Regents Business and Finance Committee recommended the approval of ASU's annual capital development plan, which includes a proposal for renovations to Wells Fargo Arena and the construction of a new multi-use venue. Cronkite News reporter Tyler Paley has the details on what this could mean if it's approved.
Arizona State University is one step closer to renovating what the school has called an outdated Wells Fargo Arena and constructing a new on-campus athletic venue. After Thursday's recommendation to the Board of Regents by the Business and Finance Committee, a February 8th vote will decide if ASU can proceed with the project.
But at this point, it's still preliminary, and there are a lot of steps to go through and a lot of internal planning that we'll continue with, assuming that the board approves here in 2 weeks.
According to documents provided to ABOR, the university's plans include widening the concourses and replacing the entire lower bowl at Wells Fargo Arena. The new 5,000-seat facility would include 2 sheets of ice and give a new home to the school's hockey, wrestling, and gymnastics programs. The estimated total cost of the project is $160 million. In a statement, the university said the project will be funded through bonds and donations. It does not anticipate any taxpayer or tuition funds would be used.
Our preliminary plan has about $50 million in private gifts associated with it, and it may be that some of those gifts are used to bring down the remaining cost of the construction.
If the Board of Regents votes to approve the proposal on February 8th, this is the proposed site where the new athletic venue will be built. It's currently a parking lot directly northeast of Wells Fargo Arena in Tempe. But if all goes as planned, Arizona State's hockey team will start playing here in the 2020-2021 season.
The nice thing about that particular location should be very accessible for students and the university community.
Documents made available prior to the meeting stated that, if approved, the design process will begin this May. In Tempe, Tyler Paley, Cronkite News.
Olson told Cronkite News it's too early to estimate when renovations and construction on the new facility will begin. But the Board of Regents records say it will tentatively begin in February of 2019.
Stay tuned here on Arizona PBS. Our top social stories of the week are coming up next in our Cronkite News Refresh.
And for all the top stories around Arizona anytime, go to cronkitenews.azpbs.org and have a good evening.
That was better.
Yeah.
As journalists at Cronkite News, we report on stories that matter to you by focusing on the local impact. We dig deeper and work tirelessly to keep you informed.
Live in Wickenburg.
Live in Los Angeles.
In Cleveland. In Washington. In Louisville.
From Jerusalem.
Live in Philadelphia. From around the world to right here in Phoenix.
At Cronkite News, we report the facts and stick to the truth.
Welcome to @Cronkite News, your social sharing connection where you choose the news. Facebook likes and shares, tweets, retweets, and favorites. YouTube views and subscriptions. We're watching you watch us. From our digital home at cronkitenews.azpbs.org to your television, web browser, or mobile device. Let's get a refresh on the top Arizona news of the week.
Cronkite News has a mission to cover stories in every corner of the state. It's part of our Access Across Arizona initiative.
And tonight, a story of song and some very dedicated teachers in Cochise County. Reporter Adriana de Alba traveled to the border town of Naco, Arizona to see how some musicians are inspiring children in the sister city of Naco, Sonora.
It's a project that's breaking barriers along the border, and its message is loud and clear. Children and adults from 2 different countries can create harmony together and find life's meaning through the magic of music.
In the small border town of Naco, just 13 miles south of Bisbee, Arizona, joy, teaching music to Mexican children along the border was just a dream. But now that vision has come to life, thanks to Bisbee-based artist Gretchen Bayer.
I think that the border wall means nothing. It doesn't stop kids from being kids or loving to make music together.
For the children living in this town, an opportunity like this is hard to come by. Many of the families here struggle to make ends meet, and music lessons are not usually a priority.
It's beyond my imagination.
Son buenas personas.
They're good people because there are some from the U.S. who won't do this. They're not like these people who teach us and are kind to us.
I know that we all light up when we're here. Everybody here, it comes down and comes down again and again, and we all keep coming back, and the rewards are really just that it feels so good to help these kids.
The port of entry here in Naco is very fluid. It usually takes less than 5 minutes to get to the Mexican side of the border, which makes it easy for the musicians to visit the children twice a week.
The U.S.-Mexico border is often thought of as firmly dividing 2 nations, but with people coming and going every day, it flows more like a river.
I hope that our project inspires other people to just cross over. It's okay on the other side. In fact, it's really nice over here. You know, it's colorful, the people are warm and loving, there's a lot of laughter, the kids are great. What's not to love?
For the musicians and the kids, that is music to their ears.
All of the instruments for the program are donated, and the musicians volunteer their time. Gretchen says her goal is to keep this program going for as long as she's able to. In the broadcast center, Adriana de Alba, Cronkite News.
8 humanitarian workers with the group No More Deaths are now facing federal charges, including entering a wildlife refuge without a permit. One of them, an ASU instructor, is charged with felony harboring of undocumented immigrants. These charges come shortly after the aid group released evidence allegedly showing Border Patrol agents destroying supplies left for migrants trying to cross. Cronkite News reporter Lillian Donahue went to the remote desert area near the border where the group presented its case and shows us how their work is carried out.
Over the past 2 decades, the remains of nearly 7,000 people have been found along the border. Groups like No More Deaths say they're trying to save lives by leaving water and food behind, but continue to find resources decimated before migrants can get to them.
Unforgiving terrain, stifling heat, and dangerous wildlife consume parts of the southern border. Volunteers with No More Deaths cross this landscape daily, leaving life-saving supplies.
This is the type of area where people are crossing. The remains of 3 people were found right in this area.
It's a treacherous voyage, which is why certain groups leave supplies along the route, hoping to make this potentially deadly trip a bit safer for undocumented immigrants trying to cross.
The organization No More Deaths Arizona has put out nearly 32,000 of these water jugs in the past 6 years alone. And 80% of that has been used by migrants on these trails.
We try and leave them in spots that'll be shaded, protected from the sun, visible from the trail, but also not overly visible to protect them from destruction and vandalization.
A recent report by the organization says volunteers in just one desert corridor found more than 3,500 gallons of water destroyed over a 3-year period. This video, obtained through hidden cameras placed by No More Deaths, allegedly shows Border Patrol agents knocking over jugs and pouring out the water.
So you get a good shot. Picking up this trash somebody left on the trail.
For its part, Border Patrol says they don't tolerate this kind of behavior.
Tucson sector does not condone or encourage the destruction or tampering with any water or food. If it does happen, we want to be made aware of it, so therefore we can take corrective actions against the agents that conduct those activities.
The destruction of aid supplies is a deadly act.
But No More Deaths says they're not satisfied and will continue to watch Border Patrol practices. In the meantime, volunteers continue setting out for more water drops.
Being able to walk into the desert and put water and beans out feels like a small act, but it actually is really important.
For 7 of the charged humanitarian workers, their next court hearing is on February 23rd. As for ASU instructor Scott Warren, who is facing a felony, ASU said in a statement that they don't believe the charge will impact his ability to fulfill the current duty with the university. We will continue to follow this developing story. For updates, visit our website at cronkitenews.azpbs.org. In the broadcast center, Lillian Donahue, Cronkite News.
Drug smuggling at the U.S. and Mexico border has not stopped despite the Trump administration's tough talk on borders. Cronkite News reporter Alexis Burdine is in the broadcast center with more on how those closest to Mexico are impacted.
The U.S.-Mexico border is almost 2,000 miles long, 362 miles of which are shared between Arizona and Sonora. I traveled to the areas near Bisbee and Sierra Vista and spoke with a rancher who's seen a shift in the kind of immigration coming through over the past year. John Ladd's southern Arizona ranch straddles the international boundary with Mexico, 10.5 acres of beautiful farmland. But this pristine scenery, he says, is constantly interrupted by drug smugglers crossing through his property into the U.S.
Human backpackers is what we call mules, and 50-pound packs in the back and 20-pound belly bundles. So they're packing 70 pounds of marijuana at a time.
Ladd is a 4th-generation rancher and says in the past it hasn't been unusual to see immigrants trying to cross through. But ever since President Donald Trump came into office, Ladd says the numbers have changed. He doesn't see families like before. Instead, more drugs keep coming in.
President Trump's rhetoric, what he's been able to get accomplished, has pretty well stopped the people on our ranch. What we have now is just outlaws.
According to Border Patrol numbers, the number of apprehensions of undocumented immigrants on the southern border has gone down from almost 409,000 in 2016 to nearly 304,000 in 2017. That's a difference of just over 100,000. However, the smuggling of hard drugs like cocaine, heroin, and methamphetamine went up in just 1 year. Back in 2012, illegal immigrants started crossing into the United States right here by cutting out a chunk of this fence and driving a truck literally across right where I am standing and past these barriers that were put in 2 years ago to stop this from happening. Tucson Border Patrol acknowledges drug smuggling is still a problem. However, the lower number of apprehensions of regular undocumented immigrants has allowed them to focus more on drug enforcement efforts.
Since then, we've still been able to increase our technology that we have throughout the border, and then our manpower as well has continued to increase.
But for ranchers like Ladd, these efforts are not enough, as they still see drugs coming through their land.
Typically, the ranchers are the first one to give aid to illegals in trouble, and I don't know if we'll ever see a decline in the drugs.
Border Patrol agents tell me they are working with the resources they have and will continue to target specific areas along the Arizona-Mexico border known for drug smuggling. In the broadcast center, Alexis Burdine, Cronkite News.
In ballet, every dance is unique, but for Chelsea Gannon, every plie and pirouette is a miracle doctors never thought would happen. Olivia Richard shows us what made a difference in the life of this special dancer.
She's a ballerina unlike any other. When you watch Chelsea Gannon dance, there's a sort of magic. Every step frees her from the very thing that once anchored her to the ground. Chelsea has dyspraxia, a disorder that impacts all her motor movements.
For her to control her muscle movement, which come naturally to us, she goes through multiple steps in her brain.
Dyspraxia meant Chelsea couldn't move her arms or cross her midline, making everyday tasks like buttoning a blouse impossible and ballet unimaginable.
It was almost heartbreaking that you know that someone's not necessarily going to be open-minded to working with your child.
But Chelsea will tell you, just like Cinderella, she had a little help.
But when I met Miss Helen, she changed my whole world.
Meet the fairy godmother of dance.
I developed the work for Chelsea, and she shows me where we should go.
Caroline Atkinson is a teacher with the Royal Academy of Dance who specializes in training dancers with severely limiting disabilities.
I can do it. With the help of Caroline music and ballet combined.
Atkinson's program, Inner Dancer, uses music and dance therapy to help students overcome their limitations.
It's made me who I am.
And like most magical bonds, to borrow a phrase from her favorite song, there's no limit to what they can achieve together. In Phoenix, Olivia Richard, Cronkite News.
The Inner Dancer Dance Company is open to children with and without disabilities. The program puts on several performances throughout the year, including their annual Nutcracker at the Orpheum Theater here in Phoenix.
The Trump administration has ended temporary protected status for several immigrant groups. Among them, nearly 200,000 Salvadorans are affected. Now they have 18 months to find a legal way to stay in the U.S. or go back to their home country. We spoke with one Valley Salvadoran family to see how they're coping with the decision.
It's a typical evening in the Delgado family's home. A spelling contest before dinner, homework scattered across the counter, and endless laughter. But the recent TPS decision has this household on edge.
I can't believe this is happening. I can't believe this is the end of the TPS for us. We're like, what are we gonna do? I have my family, I have a house, I have a business.
Wilbur Delgado has been living in the U.S. for 21 years under work permits and the TPS program.
Why now? If we've been doing things like the way it's supposed to be.
If they were to face deportation, he and his wife say they would not take their 3 U.S.-born children to El Salvador. They say the country is too dangerous and lacks opportunity.
I'm afraid of separate from my kids. I think it's just thinking about it, it's just, I mean, I not even want to think about it because I think I won't be able to sleep.
How can you tell a 5, 7-year-old, okay, look, we don't know if we're gonna be here tomorrow, you know, we don't know what's gonna happen.
Nationwide, nearly 200,000 Salvadorans are TPS holders. 1,000 of them live here in Arizona. They're the parents of 1,100 U.S.-born children in the state.
After ending the program, the Trump administration has emphasized the temporary protected status. Many have argued that the Salvadorans should have solidified their path to citizenship while here, but it's not that simple.
So let's be clear about something. TPS was not a path to citizenship. There was no way someone could apply for TPS, then apply for residency, then apply for citizenship.
The Salvadoran consul says they're trying to do what they can to help. But many within the community say the consulate's efforts have not been enough.
This is not fair at all. This is not plenty of time because these people have roots here. They have been here for too long.
Long enough for the Delgado family to say the only home they know is right here in the valley.
Stop playing with, our dreams, with our family. We can't sleep at night thinking, what's going to happen tomorrow.
The temporary protected status program for Salvadorans will end on September 9th, 2019.
Now, here's an @Cronkite News pick of the week, a favorite from the Cronkite News staff.
You see it in movies and TV shows, but at Miracle Fitness, the medieval martial art of sword fighting is mounting a comeback.
Hey, I go to this park and this dude teaches me sword fighting. Do you want to do that? And he's like, yeah.
Sword fighting has been around for centuries, but Richard Marsden's love for the sport started 20 years ago.
But I think, all of us are fascinated by sword fighting. It's in our films, right? We see it through Star Wars, we see it through Game of Thrones, we see it in the Three Musketeers. And there's sort of a romance to it, and so people want to learn that.
Marsden does it all. He's the co-founder of the Phoenix Society of Historical Swordsmanship, a history teacher at Peoria High School, and a writer and publisher of 3 books about swords and different styles of fighting. And the reason that he's written all these books,
no one else has. I have a lot of information in my head. I want to be able to pass it on to others. My ultimate goal is to take these dead martial arts and bring them back to life again.
The Phoenix Society of Historical Swordsmanship used to meet in a park, but has since grown to include classes with as many as 30 students meeting 3 times a week at Miracle Fitness. 24-year-old Randy Reyes has been training with Marsden for almost 10 years.
You all right?
I'm not gonna lie, I thought it was a cult, because I see all these guys dressed in black and they're swinging swords at each other. I'm like, what are you introducing me to? I don't understand. But then once I started talking with Richard and everything, and just learning about the kind of like the history behind it and just like what the club was about, that interested me.
One of the club's favorite swords to use is the longsword, which dates all the way back to the 1200s.
When we spar one another, we are not actually trying to kill one another, but we are trying to make our lethal techniques as close as possible work.
But even with the proper coaching, you might leave with a couple of battle wounds.
Cronkite News tracks your likes, tweets, and shares from all our social sites to bring you this news special at Cronkite News, our weekly refresh. Join the conversation so you choose the news. Like us on Facebook, follow us on Twitter, subscribe to us on YouTube, and log on to cronkitenews.azpbs.org for top Arizona stories anytime.